They built a lie out of my life. I pulled one thread, and it collapsed.
My name is Adam Kepler. I'm 41 years old, and for the last 17 years, I served as a warrant officer with the Colorado National Guard. 3 deployments. 2 combat zones. 1 long marriage. Correction, was married. Lena and I met back in 2007. She was a first-year medical assistant. I was newly stationed in Fort Carson. She had a laugh that pulled people into her orbit. Back then, I thought she was my compass. My home. We got married in 2009. No big wedding. Just a courthouse and 2 friends from my unit. She said she didn't want to waste money on flowers when we could be building a life. Funny, considering what she ended up doing with our money. I was halfway through a 6-month deployment in Kosovo when it happened. Mid-February. A Friday. I'd just gotten off a field rotation, boots soaked from 2 days of slush and sleet. I checked my inbox expecting a supply memo. Instead, there was a message with the subject line, "Time to move on." The email had exactly 4 sentences. Adam, I've filed the divorce papers. I've moved out. Please don't try to contact me. This is what's best for both of us. I stared at the screen like it was lying to me. Hit refresh. Same 4 lines. By the time I checked our shared accounts, she'd already drained them. Every cent. Savings. Gone. Emergency fund. Gone. Even the CD we'd opened for our future kid. Wiped. All of it had been moved to an account I'd never seen before, registered under her name only. I didn't say a word to my unit. Just stared at my laptop for hours that night. Felt like I was standing in a life I no longer recognized. What she didn't know, couldn't have guessed, was that I'd already started preparing for the possibility of betrayal. You spend long enough in war zones, you learn to listen to your gut. Lena had started acting strange months before deployment. Late shifts. Excuses. Password changes on everything from her email to the Netflix account. The woman I'd once held in my arms was now a stranger wearing her skin. So before I left Colorado, I started separating things. I opened a private savings account. Moved my grandfather's heirlooms into a storage unit in Cannon City. Changed the beneficiary on my military life insurance. Quiet moves. Quiet man. I didn't make noise. I didn't make threats. But I remembered everything. I got back stateside in late April. I didn't tell anyone, especially not Lena. Rented a room at a roadside inn in Pueblo under the name Jared Kessler. Cheap, clean, anonymous. Perfect. First call I made was to Miles Duran, an old friend from my first deployment who'd become a civilian legal investigator after leaving the service. He owed me a favor. And more importantly, he didn't ask stupid questions. I've got a name, a set of transactions, and a marriage implosion, I said. Sounds like a Tuesday, he replied. I gave him everything I had. Account numbers. Last known addresses. Access to a shared digital calendar that hadn't been updated in months. Within 48 hours, Miles had a file ready. Lena had left the Springs 3 weeks earlier. Moved into a high-rise condo in Denver. The new tenant on the lease. A guy named Kyle Renner, age 35. Software sales. No criminal record, but a past as slippery as oiled marble. Turns out, Kyle had a habit of showing up in recently single women's lives. Women going through financial transitions. Divorcees. Widows. He specialized in emotional clarity, as he called it. Helped them start fresh. Until their accounts dried up. Then he was gone. But Lena? She wasn't his victim. She was his partner. They were flipping real estate together. Using quick refinances and fake signatures to extract equity from homes they didn't really own, not legally, not cleanly. And guess whose name was still on the mortgage of the townhome in Broadmoor Heights? Mine. Because it had been bought under a military benefits program in my name. Lena was never added to the loan. Only the deed. A technicality she'd assumed didn't matter. She was wrong. I spent 2 days watching the townhome from a park bench half a block away. Kyle came and went like he owned the place. She followed behind, carrying coffee cups and laughing like a woman without a past. I didn't confront them. Not yet. Instead, I walked into the county clerk's office and filed a motion of dispute over the title. On paper, it was a quiet move. Just a notice that any transfer or sale of the property required my written consent. But for them? It was a deadbolt slamming shut. That evening, Lena texted me for the first time in months. "Why is the house flagged?" I got a call from the title office. "What are you doing?" I didn't reply. I didn't need to. She just realized I wasn't gone. And I wasn't finished. Lena always believed she was smarter than me. That's how she got away with it, or thought she did. She saw the soldier, the man who fixed things with his hands, kept his head down, and trusted too much. She never looked closely enough to see what else was there. The man who could wait. And that was her first miscalculation. After she sent that text, 3 more followed. "Adam, this is childish. Let's be adults about this. You can't hold on to that house out of spite. If you're trying to get money, we can talk." I let them stack up like dead leaves. She was already trying to bargain. She wasn't used to not having control. Miles kept digging. Turns out, Lena and Kyle weren't just flipping properties. They were forging documents, power of attorney, title signatures, stuff that would crumble under legal scrutiny if anyone cared to look close enough. But they didn't. Because they worked small. Fast. One house at a time. Just under the radar. Until they tripped over me. I went back to the county records. Filed a quiet lien on the Broadmoor townhome for military relocation expenses. No one questioned it. No one looked at the fine print. Suddenly, Lena and Kyle couldn't refinance. Couldn't sell. The house was a dead asset. Another message came. "You need to call me." I smiled. She was slipping. But I wasn't interested in the house. I was interested in leverage. Lena's new life looked clean on paper. Her bank accounts were neat, her credit scores untouched. But Kyle? He wasn't as careful. He had a condo in Boulder under his name. A couple of shady LLCs tied to property deals across 3 counties. And one minor infraction, a late payment to a private lender tied to a second mortgage. Just a hiccup. But it was enough. Miles helped me draft a notice to the lender, suggesting there might be title inconsistencies. Quiet language. No direct accusations. Just enough to freeze the account. Kyle's assets locked up overnight. Lena didn't text me again. She called. I let it ring. I visited the Broadmoor townhome the next day. Didn't knock. Just sat across the street, sipping coffee. Watched Kyle step out onto the porch, barking into his phone, pacing like a man who suddenly realized the ground was shifting under him. Lena came out after. Hair pulled back, face tight, eyes darting like someone expecting ghosts. They argued. I couldn't hear the words. I didn't need to. Later that night, the inevitable happened. Blocked number. I answered this time. Her voice was smooth at first. Too smooth. "Adam. Look, I know this has been hard on you." I cut her off. "You stole from me." Silence. She wasn't expecting direct. "I didn't steal anything," she said, softer now. "We divided assets. You emptied everything. That money was joint. You know that. You forged my signature on a second mortgage. Pause. Who told you that? She asked, sharper now. I smiled. I know more than you think. Her tone shifted, soft again. Manipulative. The Lena I remembered. We don't have to do this. We could settle. Clean slate. You could walk away with something. I let the silence stretch. Then hung up. It wasn't about money. Not for me. It was about reminding her that she never broke me. That she wasn't in control. A week passed. The Broadmoor townhome sat in limbo. No refinancing. No sales. The lien held. Kyle's accounts frozen. Their cash flow was choked. Then the bomb dropped. Kyle's Boulder condo, foreclosed. Their backup cash. Gone. I went quiet again. Watched from a distance as Lena posted the kind of polished, forced smiles on social media that people post when they're scared. Weekend getaway. New opportunities ahead. The cracks showed. The captions were louder than the silence. Then, the first crack in Kyle appeared. Miles found a recorded call between Kyle and one of his lenders. Kyle's voice, strained and panicked, asking for extensions, talking in circles, blaming market conditions. The lender wasn't buying it. Neither was I. Another week. Another message. This time, from Kyle. Blocked number. Whoever you are, he snapped the moment I picked up, you're playing a dangerous game. I leaned back in my chair. You're the one with forged signatures, Kyle. Maybe don't poke the bear. You're bluffing. I've got copies. His breath caught. I could hear the hesitation. What do you want? I hung up again. This wasn't negotiation. This was war. And I wasn't nearly finished. The thing about pressure, it doesn't work if you go too hard, too fast. You have to let them squirm. Give them space to think they still have a way out. And then close that door. Kyle made his first public misstep 2 days after that call. One of his LLCs, Ridgeway Acquisitions, missed a payment on a fixer-upper in Aurora. Nothing catastrophic. But the lender filed a notice of default. And like a shark scenting blood, a local property blogger picked it up. A small post, buried in a sea of articles. But it was enough. One whisper in the right ears that Kyle Renner might be overleveraged. I sent that post to a handful of brokers who followed Kyle's deals. Then I sat back. Let them do the rest. 2 weeks later, Kyle's name started popping up in small-time forums. Investors asking questions. Deals falling through. Lenders tightening terms. He tried to deny it. But money moves fast when people smell smoke. And Lena? She went silent. Her carefully curated life, the polished photos, the brunch snapshots, vanished. Her last post was a generic quote. Strength is rising after the storm. She was starting to drown. I kept applying pressure. The Broadmoor townhome. Still locked. I filed another motion. This time, flagging it for potential fraud investigation. I had no intention of pushing it to court, yet. But the paperwork triggered a compliance review from the title office. Another dead end for Lena and Kyle. Their empire was frozen. That's when Miles hit me with something unexpected. He dug deeper into Kyle's history. Turns out, Kyle wasn't Kyle. His real name was Ethan Russell. 3 aliases, 4 failed businesses, 1 sealed arrest record from his early 20s in New Mexico. Fraud, dismissed on a technicality. Lena had hooked herself to a sinking ship. She just didn't know how deep the water went. Yet. I waited for the next move. It came on a rainy Thursday night. Blocked number. Kyle again. His voice cracked this time. Look, I don't know who the hell you are, he spat. But you're gonna regret this. I smiled. I've already served my sentence.
Sorry to interrupt your viewing experience. But we really need your support, namely a subscription to the channel, which can make it possible to hire a professional voice actor and make the best content for you.
That shut him up. You don't have anything on me. I've got enough to make every lender within 50 miles blacklist you. I'm just warming up. He snapped. Whatever Lena told you, she's the one who set you up. She forged the signatures. She planned the whole damn thing. Ah. There it was. Kyle's survival instinct turning on the only person left in his corner. I said nothing. Let him twist. I can make it right, he added quickly. Just back off. I hung up. The next morning, Lena texted me. Adam, please. We can talk. Her walls were crumbling. I could feel it. I didn't reply. I sent Kyle's real identity to 3 of their top lenders instead. Ethan Russell. Fraud. Multiple aliases. Sealed record. By the end of the day, his accounts weren't just frozen. They were flagged for investigation. Another call. This time Lena. She didn't start with anger. She started with begging. Adam, listen. I know you're angry. I know I hurt you. But you're ruining me. I leaned back. Good. She sniffed. Held back tears. You don't have to do this. You're not like this. You don't know me. I know you're better than this, she said, voice cracking. We were married. We built a life. I made a mistake. You made choices, I corrected her. You emptied our accounts. You ran off with a con man. You left me to rot. She broke off, swallowed hard. I didn't think you'd come back. I smiled to myself. That was the truth. She never thought I'd come back. I let her sit in the silence for a while. Let the weight settle. I'll give you one chance, I said finally. She pounced. Anything. Name it. Sign over the Broadmoor house. Full title. No contest. She hesitated. That's not even worth it anymore. I know. Pause. Why? So you know who really owns you. The next day, I got the paperwork. No lawyer. No contest. Just a single signed title transfer. The Broadmoor townhome was mine. On paper. In reality, it was a tombstone for the life she tried to build. But I wasn't done. Because there was still the launch event. The one thing Kyle, Ethan, was banking on to revive their sinking empire. A flashy investor pitch. New tech angle. Augmented reality for real estate tours. Their last card. And I was holding the match. The investor pitch was set for the following Friday night at the Summit, a sleek, glass-walled event space overlooking downtown Denver. It was meant to be the relaunch of Kyle and Lena's empire. A chance to show off their next big thing. Augmented reality tours. A tech-forward solution to revolutionize real estate sales. They'd invited brokers, investors, lenders, the same people I'd been quietly feeding breadcrumbs to for weeks. And they had no idea I was already inside. Not physically. I didn't need to be there in person. But my voice. Oh, they were going to hear it. I'd spent months mapping out the weaknesses in their system. Kyle, Ethan, had thrown together their new platform with cheap code and freelance developers. No security. No redundancy. Just a flashy demo held together by duct tape and hope. It wasn't even difficult. A simple exploit in their back-end streaming service, tucked right into the middle of their AR presentation. One well-placed payload, and I'd have access to every headset in the room. I sat 3 blocks away that night, in a coffee shop. Laptop open. Hoodie up. Watching the live feed from the event's website. Lena stood at the front of the room, poised, smile rehearsed to perfection. Kyle flanked her, sharp suit, confident swagger. Like none of this was crumbling under their feet. They spoke in polished phrases. The future of real estate. Innovative experiences for modern buyers. Seamless integration with financial partners. I waited until they reached the demo. The audience slipped on their AR headsets, ready to see the virtual tour. I keyed in the script. A flicker. The virtual tour stuttered, glitched. Then the message appeared. White letters against a black void. Do you trust what you see? The room shifted. Confused murmurs. A few lifted their headsets, thinking it was a glitch. But the message continued. Kyle Renner isn't real. Ethan Russell is. A pause. The names hung in the air. Faces turned toward the stage. Kyle's jaw tightened. He scrambled for the control tablet, trying to kill the feed. Too late. The next line appeared. Lena Kepler emptied joint accounts, forged signatures, and ran. Gasps. A ripple of shock swept through the room. I kept going. Together, they stole, cheated, and built their empire on lies. People began removing their headsets. Some pulled out their phones, snapping photos, filming. Kyle shouted something, his voice didn't carry over the panic rising in the room. Lena froze. Not a word. Just her eyes locked onto the screen like she could stop it by sheer will. But she couldn't. The final line appeared. The House of Cards collapses tonight. And then the feed cut. Black. The room erupted. Shouting. Demands. Phones buzzing as notifications exploded, fraud accusations at investor event. Ethan Russell alias exposed. Kyle and Lena tried to explain, their voices drowned out by the wave of suspicion. Security closed in, ushering them off stage. I watched the stream blink to static. I finished my coffee. Shut the laptop. Walked out into the cool night air. The fallout came fast. Within an hour, the first lender announced a suspension of dealings with Kyle and Lena pending investigation. By morning, 3 more followed. The headlines were merciless. Investor event turns into fraud scandal. Real estate duo exposed in front of industry leaders. Their empire wasn't just crumbling. It was radioactive. Lena called that night. I let it go to voicemail. Her voice broke as she spoke. Adam, you win. I get it. You've ruined us. Please, just stop. I replayed it twice. Not because I wanted to hear her suffer. But because I wanted to remember. Remember the sound of the woman who once stood in court, lying under oath, crying as she told the world I was the villain. And now? Now, she was the one begging. I deleted the message. Turned off the phone. And let them burn. The fallout wasn't just headlines and hashtags. It was consequences. 2 days after the summit event, Kyle's, Ethan's, name hit public court records. 3 lenders filed formal complaints for fraudulent misrepresentation. The Department of Regulatory Agencies in Colorado opened an inquiry. The whispers turned into formal investigations. The man who once strutted through lobbies like he owned them now faced audits and depositions. He tried to fight it. Issued a public statement, claiming he was the victim of a targeted cyber attack, that someone was trying to ruin him. He called the allegations baseless. Claimed hackers fabricated the evidence. But the problem with lies is that they only work if your foundation holds. And I'd already hollowed out the ground beneath him. I tracked the brokers who pulled out of their deals. Watched as one by one they distanced themselves, citing unforeseen complications. Deals froze. New projects died before they started. Without lenders or investors, Kyle and Lena were bleeding out financially. And it got worse. Because Ethan Russell had more skeletons than he could bury. A journalist, someone I'd tipped off months ago, picked up the scent. They found the sealed arrest records from New Mexico. Fraud. Forgery. A pattern going back over a decade. Their perfect image cracked under the weight of history. Lena didn't make a public statement. But she tried to reach me again. Emails this time. I didn't know about Ethan's past. He lied to me, too. We can fix this. Please. I'm not your enemy. I didn't reply. But I let her believe there was a chance I might. It was another door for her to stare at, knowing I'd never open it. The Broadmoor townhome sat empty now. They'd abandoned it, unable to sell or refinance, trapped under my lien. A hollow shell that stood as a monument to their fall. I considered flipping it. Not for profit. But just to turn their dream house into something functional again. Something that worked. Unlike them. Ethan disappeared from public view. No social posts. No interviews. No flashy investor events. But the investigations didn't stop. The FBI opened a file. Fraud across state lines. Identity falsification. Money laundering probes linked to his old LLCs. It was no longer about the message on the AR glasses. It was about every deal they'd ever touched. Lena, though. She tried to hold on. For weeks, she kept meeting with small-time brokers. Pitched new ideas. Whispered about fresh starts. But no one wanted to be near the woman at the center of a public spectacle. One afternoon, Miles sent me a photo. Lena, sitting alone outside a closed cafe in Englewood. Hoodie up, face pale, phone clutched tight like a lifeline. No Kyle. No friends. No empire. Just her. I stared at that photo for a long time. Because that's what justice looked like. Not fast. Not loud. But slow. Relentless. I didn't need to confront her. Her life was doing that for me. I heard Ethan fled Colorado. Somewhere south. Rumors said New Mexico, the irony not lost on me. Crawling back to the shadows where he started. But Lena? She stayed. Maybe she thought she could salvage something. Maybe she was too stubborn to run. Either way, the storm wasn't over. Because there was one more hit left. The civil suits started piling in. Tenants. Vendors. Brokers. People claiming lost money from botched deals. I slipped one last piece of evidence to a law firm representing a group of defrauded investors. Copies of emails between Lena and Ethan. Proof that she knew about the forged signatures. Proof that she helped. Now. She wasn't just guilty by association. She was complicit. The headlines that week were brutal. Fraud duo faces multiple lawsuits after AR stunt unravels scheme. Lena Kepler accused of aiding financial fraud. I watched it all from my kitchen table. A cup of coffee in hand. The lake outside calm, quiet. Exactly what I wanted. She sent me one last message. Are you happy now? I read it. Then deleted it. Because happiness had nothing to do with this. This was about balance. And the scales weren't done tipping yet. To be concluded in Part 6, The Reckoning. Go on with the final part. ChatGPT. Let's finish this, final strike, no mercy. Here's Part 6, The Reckoning. Part 6, The Reckoning. There's a moment in every war when the enemy stops fighting. Not because they've surrendered. But because there's nothing left to fight for. That's where Lena stood now. A woman who once thought she'd outsmarted me, now buried under lawsuits, investigations, and the wreckage of her own decisions. And I stood on the other side of that battlefield, watching the smoke settle. The civil suits hit hard. 3 separate groups of investors filed claims against Lena and Ethan, seeking damages for fraudulent deals, falsified documents, misrepresentation. Ethan was impossible to pin down. He slipped through state lines, probably living under another alias by now. But Lena? She couldn't hide. Her name was on the paperwork. Her face in the photos. Her signature on the deals. She became the face of the fallout. I followed the court updates like reading chapters in a familiar book. Asset freezes. Property seizures. Court summons. The Broadmoor townhome. Still mine. Untouched, unsold, a silent monument. The first default judgment came in 6 months after the investor event. Lena ordered to pay restitution. Numbers she couldn't cover. Not without Ethan. Not without their network. She tried to fight it. Tried to argue she'd been deceived, manipulated. But the emails I'd slipped to the plaintiff's lawyers told another story. She was in it. Deep. And no judge was buying her performance. I watched from a distance as she sold off everything. The car. The furniture. Whatever scraps were left. She moved into a basement apartment on the east side of Denver, barely enough space for a bed and a folding table. Miles kept tabs on her, but I never asked for more. I didn't need to know the details. Her silence told me enough. No more messages. No more pleas. Just the echo of everything she lost. I stayed out of the spotlight. No interviews. No speeches. No gloating. I wasn't here to make headlines. I was here to make sure. To make sure she felt every inch of the ground collapse beneath her. And she did. 1 year to the day after the investor event, I stood at the edge of the lake near my home. Cool breeze, water still. Watching the horizon shift with the sunset. Elaine, my neighbor, not a lover, but a quiet presence, brought out 2 cups of coffee. "You ever going to let it go?" she asked. I sipped the coffee. I already have. Because this wasn't about holding on. It was about finishing what she started. About taking back the years she stole. I made one final move. The Broadmoor townhome. I signed it over. Not to Lena. Not to myself. But to Homes for Veterans, a non-profit that finds housing for former service members. Let someone else rebuild something in that space. Let it stand as a place of healing. Not as a ruin. Lena's life. What's left of it? She works 2 jobs now, according to Miles. A cashier in a downtown grocery store. And part-time receptionist at a mechanic's shop. No more real estate. No more lavish events. Just the slow, steady grind. Day after day. She probably still wonders if I'm watching. If I'm waiting. I'm not. The war is over. I buried my ghosts. But I know one thing. Every time she passes the reflection in a storefront window. Every time she feels the weight of another dead-end day. She remembers. And that's enough.
What do you think of the story? Write in the comments.